You ever wonder yourself after doing or thinking something, is this gay? Does this make me gay?
Do I? No. I've embraced that side of my personality, and everything I do think no, I've embraced that side of my personality, and I think everything I do has a hint of the gay.
Has a hint of just everything is completely fluid to you.
Absolutely.
Because I subscribe to that sexuality is very fluid and all, but it's just that I think it's perfectly fine for cultural shorthand to label certain acts and certain thoughts to be gay and others to be straight.
Give me some examples.
Well, for instance, I was at the Rocky Horror Picture Showing over in Orlando, and I was looking at the person who played Dr. Frankfurt, and I was like, well, that guy, he's got a wonderful ass. However, then I find out that it wasn't a man who was playing Dr. Frankfurt, it was in fact a woman. I was like, okay, great, so now that is a gay point that was given to me and was then taken away.
So gay points. You keep like a notebook handy to
it's more of an internal counter. Because whenever I do something that probably could be considered gay, I feel like, okay, that's another point for the gay spots. Okay, and then when I do something that's straight, I say, okay, there's a point for the straight spot. And sometimes there will be a few more points given the context of the action. But I feel like in this case, it was interesting because I was appreciating the physical form, what I thought was a man, but I was appreciating what I thought was a very female aspect of this man, aka a nice and curvy ass.
This sounds, I don't know, it's very tedious and complex. So the way I approach these things is if I see an ass, I think to myself, that's a nice ass. I don't have to assign a gender to it to appreciate it. And this goes with any number of things, I think.
Andrew, you're always here to open my eyes and tell me when I'm overthinking things, and that's why I appreciate you.
Not a problem. Really, there are two types of ass in this world. There are ones that the owner will, let me touch, and those are the good ones. And there are ones that I cannot grasp, and those are fine, but not as.
Those are the less good ones.
Yeah.
All right, great. Speaking of asses, we're a couple asses, and this is Total Entertainment Forever, a podcast where we dissect and assess. Thank you, all the major figureheads of pop culture. We are your hosts. Some would call us pure, unadulterated fun without any good sense or judgment. I'm Nick.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm illiterate. Anyway, Andrew, how you doing today?
Oh, man. I'm pretty good.
Okay, great.
I'm very good. I'm glad we're doing this again so soon.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're going to nail this on our
enough.
first attempt. It's not going to take us 7 tries to record this. And that's fun. That makes me feel good. Got some endorphins there.
I'm glad.
Speaking of endorphins, I went to a hockey game about a week ago. And it got me thinking. Let me just say, the game was very fun. Thank you to a friend of the pod, Paige, for those tickets. But in the back of my mind... Well, you didn't go. What are you shouting her out for?
You're right. I have no reason to shout her out.
In fact, you yell at her for not inviting you.
Hey, Paige, sick invite to this hockey game between Lightning and whoever else was playing.
And the Penguins. Okay.
Yes.
It was a very fun game, very close, a lot of fighting, and that's what I go to the games for, as somebody not initiated.
Pure, unadulterated.
Just stop trying to say that word.
Brutality. It's a tough word.
Oh,
it's like 4 syllables.
Unadulterated. Okay. So, as I was saying, it was a really fun game. But, as I sat there and I watched people spending like $18 on like tall boys and I don't know, like $20 for like a slice
now?
of 18. Like $20 for like a slice of roast because for some reason there was a roast at the stadium.
Roast at the...
Yeah,
okay.
It really, made me think that I don't really mind that I spend a lot of my time like sitting at home and watching shitty movies for free. That maybe not as fulfilling on like a social level, but
emotional.
Or emotional.
Or intellectual.
Or intellectual. It's not... But, I'm not spending $18 on beer.
You know what? There
and
is
that's a
that.
fair trade-off. Like, I'll take the isolation and
Our suffering is purely internal. We are not technically losing any money or social standing by what we're doing.
It's true. You can't lose what you never had to begin with.
This is true.
You know, so that's that. How are you, Nick?
You know, I'm okay. I have a few qualms about discussing this film for reasons we'll be getting into shortly. Please don't let me say the word unadulterated. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you say we just jump into this? Unless you had something else to say,
No.
because we
All
really
right.
should just get it over with.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really hard to overstate the pedigree of the people involved in the production of today's film.
Right.
The writer's resume, you know, includes Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Veep. You know,
Yeah.
all sharply written and critically acclaimed shows.
Uh-huh.
The director's an award-winning production designer. Worked with Tim Burton a bunch,
Uh-huh.
especially on a pod favorite, you know, Batman Returns.
Batman Returns, which is the best Tim Burton film by my summation.
The best Batman film as well.
This, you know what? Controversial opinion, but I agree.
Okay, cool. So, you know, even the cinematographer, Emmanuel
Lubezki.
is a star in his film. You know, he worked on Birdman, Children of Men, just really inventively shot films, innovatively shot films. And, you know, this says nothing of the lead himself, who's multiple culture-shaping franchises under his belt.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. So, gonna guess today we're discussing the 2003 hit film The Cat in the Hat, starring Mike Myers.
I'd say hit film is a bit of a stretch, but yeah, sure. It is a film, and me watching it felt like I was being hit a lot of the time, so I guess there's that. I was given the very wonderful task of writing the summary to this film, The Cat in the Hat from 2003. Mike Myers' The Cat in the Hat. And tried as I might, I couldn't really put together a traditional summation of the events in this film because it's basically a series of random events that happen, seemingly random, actually, because much like Stephen Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain,
Oh,
these events only seem random from the surface level, but if you look within the subtext, within the various theological and occult symbolism that appears in the film, you'll notice that it is in fact a journey about existentialism and finding what the meaning of life is. For instance, the two kids, obvious analogy for Adam and Eve. Okay, we have the cats.
I hope not. They're brother and sister.
Let's forget about your qualms. Okay, your judgments
All right,
for a
continue.
second. Okay, all right. The cat. They make a Faustian agreement with the cat, contract and all. All right, the cat. Okay, the Egyptians worshipped cat, specifically the cat goddess, whose name I completely forgot, but starts with the B. She is the goddess of what? She's the goddess of choice. Okay, the cat is effectively giving these children, all right, a choice between their chaotic selves and their more organized selves. Okay, all right, and at the end, what do they choose? They choose normalcy. They choose to conform. Okay, and we as audiences are watching this journey of them kind of trying to expand their consciousness, but giving up and conforming in the end. And we as the audience are met with a sense of isolation, hopelessness at the end, because that's what the film is ultimately about. The film is about how you should not fight with cats, because you need to be careful that you will become a cat. And if you stare into the hat for too long, the hat will gaze also into you. And that was my summary of The Cat in the Hat.
Fantastic. Well, with that out of the way, what'd you think of the film?
It was not good. No. I like that cheeky summary out of the way. I really had to find an angle here. I struggled. I was hoping when watching the film I could grasp onto something, any little piece of possible human emotion or cultural significance. I don't know, perhaps a performance that I could latch onto. Anything. And really, I was left cold. And my summary does, in fact, hold some truth, because at the end of the film, I felt like I was truly gazing into a cultural abyss. It was...
Shades of 1984, broken down, beaten, unable to continue. You just give in to what Big Brother wants.
It's a truly heinous affair. It was... We watched this in 2 sittings.
You have to.
Yeah, because it's an exhausting film. There should be an intermission, like in friggin' Lawrence of Arabia, but rather than because of length, it's just because of how fucking exhausting the whole goddamn experience is. It's, I figured before we jump into the events of this film, such as they are, we'll give a little background to this thing, because I think the background is frankly way more interesting than the film itself.
Right. So my take on the film is it's essentially just a cut-rate version of Jim Carrey's The Grinch. It has the gaudy set pieces, it has the hammy overacting, and even, copies having a talented pooch performer, but instead of a plot, like you said, it's a string of loose random humor. Instead of any charm or actual emotions, it's just shitty accents and Alec Baldwin.
Which is not good things, for the most part.
But after thinking about this movie, which I've been doing a lot, it sort of pries its way into your head when you least want it there.
It nests like a bad bug.
I gotta say, I have to give it some props and say, while it fails as a children's film, it really exceeds as a piece of Dadaist art.
I can see where you're going.
Yeah, just like Dada, it shucks tradition. It shucks the basic film tenets. It's not cohesive, it's not accessible, and it's barely entertaining. I've read some Sarza, and I gotta say it fit perfectly beside his work. So any future watches, don't look at it through the lens of, this is meant to be a kid's film based on a beloved childhood icon.
Or this is meant to be a film with entertainment value of any kind.
Exactly. Abandon all of that and just look at it as an experience. Look at it as a rejection of everything that makes, cinema enjoyable, or, not even enjoyable, anything that makes cinema. Cinema, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I can see where you're coming from there. As far as you mentioned The Grinch, it really gave me a lot of respect for The Grinch in retrospect, because I feel because it's the same basic formula in that the producer, it's really basically one guy that produced both the films. He saw the success of coupling Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel's, literature with a comedian's shtick. Obviously, in the first one, it was Jim Carrey, and as much as I think he kind of overdid it during certain parts, Ron Howard kind of just let him go. There was still a director. Ron Howard is an actual director who knows how to direct. Unfortunately, the case is here, the dynamic is completely different. It's warped and it's skewed. The director clearly had no role in actually, making the film compared to Mike Myers. Mike Myers was effectively the director of this film. This was at the top of his career, and Bo Welch at this time, like you mentioned, was just a costume designer, production designer type. And you could feel his stamp throughout this film, look-wise, but he clearly did not really have a grasp on what directing was, how to rein in a star like Mike Myers. And Mike Myers ended up stepping all over him, man. This can be backed up, this theory of mine, by Amy Hill, who played the character Mrs. Kwan in the film. She was interviewed by the AV Club, and she talked about how Mike Myers was just a complete monster on sets. He just kind of stuck to himself. He stayed in his own trailer, and whenever he was on sets, he was bullying everyone.
That's fair. So what I get from that is he was just method acting, preparing for Shrek 2. So he was just in character as Shrek, his whole performance.
It is interesting that, well, you know what? Saying this is his worst film might be a stretch, but what was effectively the worst?
His should have murdered his career long before The Love Guru even had a chance.
He had a lot of chances to ruin his career. But at the time, this was his worst film, which was then followed by his best film, Shrek 2.
Shrek 2.
Which, to this day, is still his best film in my opinion. And yeah, no, he apparently is just a complete egomaniac. There's the Love Guru. We could discuss that at some point, but it's a similar thing where the director's a nobody and Mike Myers is like this maniac who's just running the show, and he obviously thinks he's hilarious because in both those films, in both that film and this film, he's just constantly just smug and laughing at his own jokes, and you see his face in the makeup, and you see that it's Mike Myers smugly looking at you after he says like, oh yeah, for like the 88th time in the goddamn movie in the first 30 minutes. And so you see him smugly, he's almost looking you in the eye, and you see every detail of his weird face in this strange makeup. Can we talk about this makeup for a second?
The makeup is repulsive. It's not even, oh god, I don't know how to begin. So, if you look at it,
oh my god.
Again, going back to Jim Carrey's The Grinch,
it's Rick Baker.
He was kind enough, the Grinch doesn't look like Jim Carrey. Right?
No.
You can't make out who's under the
exactly.
latex.
It's a wonderful effect. Like I said, Rick Baker makeup. They clearly put a lot of effort into it, and you can tell it's Jim Carrey just from his performance. But it looks like the Grinch.
I have seen furry costumes that look better and more authentic.
You've seen a lot of furry costumes.
Well, we'll get into that later. Yeah, so better than this Mike Myers makeup.
Yeah, no, it's, I think, a part of why it's so unsettling, why it haunts my dreams so, is because of some kind of uncanny valley aspect, because we know what cats look like, and we know what Mike Myers looks like, but never in our wildest nightmares would we ever assume that we would see the two combined in such a poor way. I think it's kind of similar to, you see that new Aladdin trailer?
Oh, Blue Will Smith?
Yeah, it's similar because the internet is clearly reacting pretty negatively to Blue Will Smith, and I think it's a similar thing to where we know what Will Smith looks like the world pretty much knows his face by heart, and then seeing him just be a blue man is very unsettling, and it gives me goosebumps.
It's like Tobias Funke from Arrested Development.
Exactly,
it's just auditions for the Blue Man Group.
It's so weird, and boy, that film is going to be fucking disaster.
It actually reminds me, like those medieval paintings where people would attempt to paint cats, but you can tell they've never actually seen a cat. So it's like the body of like a furry creature, but then it has like a really disconcerting
it's got like a
it's
face.
almost like Lovecraftian. Like just the melding of two familiar things.
It's like the face
hideous.
is usually like looking at you in a real
really dour.
Yeah, it's like dour, or it's kind of looking at whatever humans also in the painting in like a real like depressed manner. You should look up these paintings. They're a lot of fun. But as far as the makeup goes, it's bad. The production design is very garish in a way where it doesn't really work. Everything is very sterile. I think maybe it could have worked in a different context, because it's kind of similar to Welch's work for Edward Scissorhands, but I feel like that worked because in a way it was about suburbia, and this is like, and there's like the dichotomy between the suburbia presented in the film and Edward Scissorhands and the castle that he lives on, and like he sticks out in this overly exaggerated suburban society, so there's a point behind it and it works better. In this it's just kind of like everything looks really strange.
It's just pastels.
It's all pastels.
Nothing really pops out.
Yeah. I think actually the set was like built off a freeway somewhere, and people like thought that it was like a real like development that was being built, and they were like complaining that this eyesore was being built in their view. And the studio had to tell them that it's going to be torn down soon. We promise, please.
Yeah. So going back to what you said about Mike Myers sort of dominating this production.
Same
thing. No, that's the only explanation I think for just how poorly written it ended up. Because like I said, you have like 3 ex-Seinfeld writers, and that is just one of the snappiest written shows or pieces of media. Pretty consistently for like 11 seasons, and
very long time.
These guys couldn't muster up like an hour and 20 minutes of decent material. I don't buy that.
It's hard to say. Because Myers might have, for all we know, just rejected large aspects of the script.
That has to be it.
Because he tried. I know, and one thing I do know is that he tried to lead the production at one point, but he was contractually out because he didn't like where the direction was going. I really don't know what that means compared to the direction where it started. But Universal basically had him in a bind. and he had to do it.
I never thought I would say this, but I think I would have preferred Tim Allen had he kept this role.
We have Tim Allen, who was in the process of, I think, contractually being involved in this film, but he had to do Santa Claus 2, I believe. So
yeah.
He dodged a bullet. I honestly don't agree. I think Tim Allen as the cat would have been even more terrifying, possibly.
Terrifying, yeah. But I've never heard of him having any sort of issues on set like this. So I feel like he would have played ball. Issues. Yeah. If you ever get a chance, look up his mugshot from the 70s where he got arrested for dealing coke.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, sure, he's like a weird conservative old man shouting at clouds now, but like early 2000s, I think
he's on that show, which is Last Man Standing, which is literally just old men shouting at clouds. It's like, wow, men these days sure do like drinking Starbucks.
What flavor coffee? I'll take a coffee-flavored coffee.
www.whatthefuck.com. But, do you have anything to say about Mike Myers? Because I really want to get off of him as fast as possible. I don't know if I can forgive him for this. And for the most part, the existence of Mike Myers in my life has been very prevalent and very positive for the most part. At least for the first half of his career. Because obviously, Austin Powers, like the first two are still pretty good. How I Married an Axe Murderer, Wayne's World is the best SNL movie. Shrek and Shrek 2. But after that, like he seems like he's trying to just piss on all goodwill that he established.
Yeah, I think Cat in the Hat really worked to erode everything prior to it. And I think the only reason this didn't kill his career is because he was writing that goodwill from Shrek. He was still writing those coattails. And
Austin Powers.
Yeah, Austin Powers.
I think Goldmember
Shrek came out
too.
directly before this.
This is true.
But by the time Love Guru came out, that really just murdered what was left, because coming off of that, it was before that it was Shrek 4.
It was
3.
Okay. It was Shrek the Third. Austin Powers 3 came first. I think that was like 2004, 2005. Then it was Shrek the Third, a movie that I saw in theaters and don't remember a single thing about, except for like maybe one or two scenes. Then after that, it was Love Guru, and the public turned on him so badly that he hasn't made like a film where he was the vehicle since, except for maybe Shrek Forever After. But like I said, we don't have to like see him in that, so I don't know if that counts.
Let me just say that him getting the boot was a long time coming. No sympathy there.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about the cast here, I want to make an amendment to something I said last week, where I said I was tired of Hollywood not letting ugly people in, making it a handsome person's club. There are two exceptions that this movie has sort of revealed to me. Number one is you can be a child star and be ugly. Not Spencer Breslin, who has like a nice... Oh, God, I can't believe I'm objectifying children like this.
Jesus Christ.
Like a cute sort of chunkiness to him. Like, I just want to, like, grab his cheek and give it a pinch, you know, and just, ooh, yeah, something like that. I'm talking about Beans from Even Stevens.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Dakota Fanning.
No.
I was about to say,
Christ.
come on.
Beans from Even Stevens.
Oh, he's an ugly child.
Who, ugly child, has grown up, still consistently pretty ugly.
It's true.
And I know, listen, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, yada yada yada. But some people you can look at and they are objectively they don't meet the traditional standards of attractiveness.
Yeah. Just like first reaction aesthetic,
I'm not commenting on them as a person.
Yeah, maybe once you get to know Beans, then you realize the beauty within. The beauty within the beans.
Which ultimately is what matters everywhere except Hollywood.
Yeah.
The other way to make it is to just be the brother of someone famous.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Clint Howard.
Or Spencer Breslin.
Okay. Looking at you, Clint Howard.
Clint Howard shows up. He's the only actor to show up in both this movie and live-action Grinch movie. In live-action Grinch movie, it's his brother directing, so it makes sense. I have no idea why he showed up in this for even a second.
I don't know. You know how Stan Lee appears Rip in every Marvel movie? They were going to do a Dr. Seuss expanded universe where the single unifying actor was Clint Howard.
Yeah, he's like the watcher of that universe.
Luckily, the Cat in the Hat movie was so bad that Dr. Seuss's widow
was so insulted.
Any future live-action Dr. Seuss movies.
She was so unbelievable, and
depriving us of the Lorax starring Adam Sandler, which was no doubt next in her mind.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, judging from you're right, because judging from the pattern, it would have been Adam Sandler's the Lorax. I speak folded knees. It would have been amazing, obviously. So obviously we're going to be dunking on Dr. Seuss's widow for the rest of the podcast. No, I'm actually inclined to agree with her. Like, I'm not one of these people who, because this is such a stupid, nerdy criticism, where like it's not like the source material, so therefore the film isn't good. Movies are their own entity. They follow their own rules. You have to change things up in order for things to work as a movie. You have to change the source material up. However, the source material is so sparse, obviously. Like, there's, I don't know how many words, no more than 20, from my guess, that you have to add stuff. I just feel like what they added here, unlike in the Grinch movie, where you can argue the additions to that, as unnecessary as they are, kind of flesh out the characters somewhat. This just what they add just serves to make things far more confusing. In the Cat in the Hat,
right? Something about like a box to another dimension.
So the cat is
also from that dimension.
Is an interdimensional entity.
Yeah.
Who haunts children for whatever reason. It's confusing, and when you think about it, even makes the film even more terrifying.
Absolutely. You know, you never know when like a trickster god in the form of a cat is going to knock down your door and unleash his two little blue heinous-looking buddies.
Yes.
And that's just something that we now have to watch out for.
Exactly. I do want to go back to Spencer Breslin. This is just like a random thing that popped in my head. And I don't want to dunk on children. That's not my thing. They are grown up now, so I don't feel as bad about dunking on them. But Spencer Breslin had a certain fat kid energy that reminded me not only of that Angus kid from 2.5 Men, but also of me as a child, who a lot of people said reminded them of the Angus child from 2.5 Men.
Please don't project your own insecurities and self-loathing on poor Spencer
I had to project
Breslin.
something onto this film, because nothing was being projected back to me. It's not a projection. It's just a reminder. I guess I just have 2.5 Men on the mind here, because my brother has been watching nothing but 2.5 Men marathons in the next room, so I have to listen to a lot of 2.5 Men in the past couple of weeks. He just does this sometimes.
We'll have to get into that show later on.
We don't have to do that.
I'm a big defender of early 2.5 Men.
Early 2.5.
Yeah, once they get Ashton Kutcher and the dynamic sort of shifts.
That's not even early.
I think it becomes like less mean-spirited, and that's really the heart of the show.
It's
just Charlie Sheen being an asshole.
Great, but just like in real life.
Just like yeah. He's not even playing. He's not even acting at that point. He just showed up on set, just kind of drunk, and they were like, "All right, Charlie, have at it."
Wonderful. Just that's exactly the kind of thing I want to see. But did you have anything else to say about the child actors? These lovely child actors who we will no longer spurn.
No. Moving on from the child actors, though, I want to point out Alec Baldwin in this movie, just sort of playing himself, in that he's sort of an egomaniacal oaf, just sort of putzing around, making everybody's life.
It's true. I'm surprised. I'm surprised the mom character in this doesn't get like an angry phone call from him, where he is threatening her, and I'm surprised that he doesn't try to beat up the children with his bare hands in some kind of drunken brawl near the paparazzi.
That's the deleted scenes.
Oh, okay.
I gotta say though, his acting, his appearances, and this is really the biggest condemnation I can offer this film. It's probably the highlight as far as
it is, because he is kind of giving it. Okay, well, I'm not gonna say that these actors are not giving it their all, but he kind of plays it in a way where, like, you can, I don't know, like you could be entertained by his like greasy presence. Plus, he had a line that we both laughed at. But it could have just been because it was so late in the film that our brains were just broken. He says to the dog, who he abducted at this point, who pisses on his what was it, his taco?
His taco.
And then he yells at this dog, "You whizzed on my taco!" We both just laughed and laughed. There's no reason for us to find it that funny, but maybe it was just his delivery.
It's a really bad line.
Just
delivered in such a way
you really can make bad lines better with good delivery, and I think he does that. And I think he is probably the best thing about this film, although that is not saying a whole lot. You have to enjoy a man who just is fat and apparently pretends to go to work and gets his TV repossessed.
That's my ideal, I think, is just like mooching off of a series of women while I do nothing but sit at home and watch 80s exercise videos.
That is what he was doing. He was watching exercise videos.
Like, I'll live a life of relative squalor if it means I never have to work a day again.
I understand that because labor is unpleasant.
Absolutely, real distaste for that.
We both have a huge distaste for
Cat in
labor.
the Hat is a labor of films.
It was a laborious undertaking to watch. I'll say that. Honestly,
I should be compensated for my emotional labor.
Yeah,
frankly.
And I really don't want to. Exactly. I don't want to exaggerate the badness. Exaggerate my anger about it. I'm not. That's not our brand. All right, we're not angry critics.
I like liking things.
Exactly.
And I like being contrarian. So if I can like something that nobody else likes,
true.
I'm going to jump on that so fast.
Yeah. I'm not going to say we're the only people that gave praise to the Scooby-Doo movie, but we give it more praise than it's probably given within people like us that go to film screenings. And stuff like that.
You make us sound snobby, brother.
Well, we are a little bit snobby, but we're self-aware enough to where we're able to watch something like Scooby-Doo and find entertainment from it. Watch it not only once, but 3 times.
4 for me.
4 for you. Yeah, it's pretty. I think we're pretty well rounded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we'll close the box on this film. I wish we could delve in more. But there's really just nothing to latch onto.
There isn't. It's a series of we could go down literally chronologically and kind of just say what happens.
Cinema the shit out of this movie.
Yeah, and we could, but I feel like that just wouldn't be worth our efforts
or your time
or your time, audience. Yeah, it just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be worth it. So I think we're going to drop this film. Obviously, we can come back to it if just a thought appears in one's mind. But we wanted to do a segment where we talked about what we've seen recently and perhaps discuss that, since what else do we have to go on?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could say the most recent thing I watched other than this film was something, pleasant, but it wasn't. Outside of this, the most recent movie I watched was Harmony Korine's Gummo. Which I've been meaning to watch for a while, ever since I watched another movie he penned, Kids, and
Spring Breakers.
Spring Breakers also very good. This is more closely related.
Harmony
to
Korine
Kids,
super fan.
Right? No, it's not. Get crazy. But it's another film that kind of shucks tradition. It's heavily improvised. It's very it's kind of lo-fi. It doesn't stick to traditional plot structure.
Yeah.
And it's very uncomfortable. It's like if you take Kids, which is by far the most disgusting film I've ever seen.
Kids is a horrible and uncomfortable film experience.
Unless it's such a visceral, unpleasant reaction.
Yeah, it's different from the horrible horridness and discomfort of The Cat in the Hat 2003, though, because in that, I guess it's more trying to provoke you in some ways, and it's
purposefully antagonistic.
Yeah, it's kind of incorporating a lot of fears that people have about a lot of things, like the youth and STDs and that kind of thing, and just throwing it in your face, and basically.
Yeah, and Gummo is just distilled to a level that's more easily imbibed. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I feel a bit of trepidation actually saying that I enjoyed it.
Right.
That's not something I want out.
So you like Gummo, but you would not recommend it?
No, not at all. I would never... I don't want my name attached to this film in any way. I especially don't recommend it if you're a big fan of cats.
That's right. Only because I have not seen this film, but the one thing I do know about it is that the main character is is BBing cats, or is he just literally shooting them?
Just kill him with a BB gun.
Oh, but he's killing them.
It opens up actually with a cat being drowned in a barrel, and apparently a lot of critics walked out on the film the first time it was screened because of that. So
that Harmony Korine.
This film, unpleasant, but enjoyable.
Okay, great. So give that a watch if that sounds like something up your alley. I'm really looking forward to that beach bum movie that Harmony Korine's making.
That good. It looks good. More like Spring Breakers. So
it looks like it looks like Spring Break. Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's the kind of life that I want to live, and hopefully it satisfies the promise made by the trailers and the cast.
It's a real shame that we were born in like the part of Florida we were, and not just like a couple hours down in Miami, because where we're at, it's like a nice blend of hicks and snowbirds.
Yeah, pawn shops and car washes.
Oh yeah, if we were just a couple hours down, we'd be in Miami, just beaches, and Jimmy Buffett, and
smoking some good grade A grass on the beach. All right, playing the bongos.
I would not be smoking grade A grass. I would still be smoking mids.
Oh right.
But yes. I'm very excited about the bongos.
The bongos are going to be fun. We got to take a trip to Miami or something, man. I'm craving the beach. Maybe, especially after the Cat in the Hat 2003.
Just get some sun.
Just get some sun.
Let the sun bake the residue of this film off of
yeah. Let the waves just wash away the feelings that I've had when watching this film. That'll be good. Have you seen anything else, Andrew?
There's another thing.
Bears any kind of discussion?
Right, yeah, that you also watched. You can chip in here. The new Netflix original Velvet Buzzsaw.
Yeah, okay, Netflix original Velvet Buzzsaw. Did not care for it.
You didn't? Yeah, I thought it was perfectly average. It had some strong moments. My main complaint here, tonally, it was a little off. It couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a straightforward horror film or something much hammier than that.
Yeah, it never really...
Jake Gyllenhaal seems like he's acting in like a different film.
Exactly. He's playing pure camp, and I love Jake Gyllenhaal, and I love that we see him naked in this. That's pretty terrific stuff.
Going back to the introduction, having seen his ass, gay point?
Having seen and enjoyed his ass, I would say gay point for me on that one. But no, I love me some Jake Gyllenhaal. His performance is good. He's not given much. The rest of the film, I think I feel even more negatively about it than you do, because I was just like the talent behind it. This is the director of Nightcrawler, also with Jake Gyllenhaal, which was a film I immensely enjoyed, and there just wasn't much vision behind the look of the film. There was nothing like creepy about the tone, and it wasn't like over the top enough for me to appreciate on those ends either, except for like a few moments, like you said. And it's a great cast that is almost completely wasted. Like, people like John Malkovich and Toni Collette are given just not much to do at all, and that's very disappointing, because like Toni Collette especially, who I'm just seeing in more and more things lately, I'm a huge fan of now.
Especially coming like fresh off her performance in Hereditary.
Her performance in Hereditary is amazing. You didn't feel as strongly positive towards Hereditary as I did, but I think we both agree that her performance is killer.
It was a strong point, absolutely.
It's amazing.
Here, she's just kind of like slapped in a Lady Gaga wig and
and she's
shoved out there.
Like, she is just like, no, she's just fodder. Like, she's murdered in a mildly entertaining fashion, but I guess that's about it. And honestly, I don't really have much more to say about the Velvet Buzzsaw film, unless you did.
No. Yeah, like I said, it would have had a lot more promise had the director sort of made a decision where he wanted to take it. Unfortunately, he did not, so there's a little bit of wasted potential there.
A lot of these Netflix films have the kind of a similar look to them, where it just looks like television.
It's kind of sterile.
Yeah, it's pretty sterile. Like that was one of my main issues with it, because it started out with like a cool like cartoon opening.
Yeah. Coming off of Nightcrawler, which is like very like distinctive. It's very dark. It's
distinctive. It's a grimy. It has a grimy look to it, and there's a feeling that you get from the look, and that's exactly what you're supposed to do as a director. And it just, I don't know. I didn't feel anything when watching it. There were some mildly entertaining elements that I can separate from back and say I like this, but the overall feeling I got from it was just kind of meh.
All right. Anything else? Okay.
Yeah. I've been kind of slacking as far as movies lately, unfortunately. I've seen a couple. I've been watching a few shows. I have Hulu now, so I've been watching through Broad City for the first time. Really enjoying that so far.
Oh, good show.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I am. I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would. Just from the trailers, plus the fact that Hillary Clinton was a guest, guest on it, made me kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this. This is neoliberal garbage.
Yeah, it's kind of the show's lowest point, I think.
Is
Other than that, like Perfectly Charming. Hannibal Buress is very good.
I love me
Obviously,
some Hannibal
The two
Buress, yeah.
leads
The two-
absolutely kill
the
it.
two leads are terrific. Like they're really talented, clearly, because they also write it. I think I don't really have much to say about it because I'm very early in on. I think I'm only like 2 or 3 episodes in, but if you haven't watched it, I recommend it. If you're into like raunchy comedy, if you're into relatable dirtbag characters, then that's the show to go to. I also recently finished a show that I don't see getting much press.
Wait, really quickly, I love how
Yeah.
you're recommending a show that's literally on its last season.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard about this show.
You're like
That's
a
on.
decade late here.
Yeah, I start things late sometimes, and some people start things even later than I do.
That's fair.
So if you haven't heard of the show that is on its last season, give it a watch.
Also, climb out from that rock you've been living under.
Do that as well. We could both do it together. Another show that I watched that I don't see getting much press is a show called Happy! Exclamation point. Christopher Maloney is the lead. It is made by one of the Crank guys. So if you've seen the film Crank, or even better, the film Crank 2 High Voltage, and you thought, boy, this is something I enjoy, watch this show. It's an insane concept. It has the same type of energy, like the same type of anarchist energy of the Crank films, the same type of exploitation elements. It's a lot of fun. Grant Morrison wrote the comic book that it's based on, so if you're a fan of his, give it a check as well. A lot of his weird writing is pretty present in the film. And sometimes you just want to see something that's just nihilistic and violent and disturbing, but also, in the case of this show, kind of with a heart at the center. And I think that's an aesthetic that we both admire greatly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, in fact, one could say that's our defining aesthetic.
Those are the best, I think. You get the full gamut of emotions. You run the whole spectrum.
Yes. And we hope that today we made you feel the full gambit of emotions when discussing Cat in the Hat 2003.
God knows we felt a single emotion, and that was dread.
It was. And I do apologize that the show was a little short today. So all Mike Myers heads, I'm sorry. Dr. Seuss fans, I'm sorry. We'll try to make it up to you in the future. But if you do have any questions about this or anything else, you're free to get at us. Twitter, all right, at
TotalPod Forever. Also, sometime in the near future, we'd like to do episodes sort of based around questions that you guys submit.
your
Anything
questions and comments.
you want us to talk about, please do.
Uh-huh.
God knows I don't want to have to keep thinking of topics here.
It is very difficult.
Please lift that load off my shoulders.
Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram, me, at McGetnoided, which is MCGETT_noided.
And I'm at No Future Part 3.
And lastly, make sure to like us on Facebook, rate, comment, review on all the podcasting aggregates, because we're going to be sure to try to spread our influence as much as possible.
Speaking of spreading influence, I do want to point out that we are now an international podcast. We have listeners
That's right.
on multiple continents. Took us one episode. I'm thinking by episode 5,
Man, we are killing it.
we should be able to go to NASA and petition them to launch our podcast into space. Really reach the intergalactic audience.
We'll get Elon Musk to shoot some more rubbish into space, but it'll just have a radio that's playing our podcast.
Yeah, like a floppy disk.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, maybe it's not the best that intelligent life should hear our voices first as a representation of humanity. They'd probably Independence Day the shit out of us.
They would Mars attacks the shit out of us. Exactly. Anyway, another shout out I would like to make is to the band Angel Dust, for we are using their music, at least as of right now, for our intro music.
Yeah, we didn't quite get the rights to that So please don't sue us, Angel Dust.
Not officially.
But yeah, check them out if you're into like really catchy punk music.
It's true. We've seen them a couple times.
Really good live show.
Yeah, nice, nice tracksuits.
Actually going on tour soon, so be sure to check that out.
Yes. Also, please don't sue us.
Also, yeah.
Anyway, that does it tonight, guys and girls. So thank you very much once again, and
We'll see you next week.
absolutely.